We've all seen it in the movies, right? A cop slaps handcuffs on someone right on the spot. But can that actually happen in real life without a judge signing off on a warrant? Well, today, we're going to dig into the real story of warrantless arrests and separate what's legally true from what's just Hollywood drama.
So let's just get straight to the point. Can the police arrest you without a warrant? The short answer is yes, they can. But, and this is a huge but, it is absolutely not a free-for-all. The law has some very specific, very strict rules about when this is allowed to happen. And to really get why these rules exist, you have to understand this fundamental tension that's right at the heart of the law. It's this constant balancing act between two things that are both incredibly important: keeping the public safe and protecting your personal freedom. I mean, think about it. On one hand, you want police to have the power to stop a dangerous situation right as it's unfolding. But on the other hand, you definitely don't want anyone's liberty to be taken away unless a judge has had a chance to look at the evidence. So every single rule we're about to go through is basically the law's attempt to find that perfect sweet spot. So how does the law even begin to strike that balance? Well, it all starts with making one absolutely critical distinction, and that's the seriousness of the crime itself. This one idea is the foundation for everything else. And this chart here lays it all out pretty clearly. The law basically has two buckets for crimes. In one bucket, you've got the really serious stuff, the cognizable offenses. Think robbery, kidnapping, things that are an immediate threat. In those cases, public safety wins out, and the police can act right away. But for less severe or non-cognizable offenses, like, say, defamation, the scale tips the other way. Your liberty is the priority, and the police have to go get a judge's permission. It really all comes down to that threat level. Okay, so now that we've got that difference down, let's dive into these specific red flag situations where an officer can, in fact, make an arrest without getting a warrant first. All right, first up, the most obvious one. An officer actually sees a serious crime happening right in front of their eyes. At that moment, it's not just that they can act, they pretty much have a duty to step in and make an arrest right then and there. But what if the officer didn't actually see it happen? Well, that's where this idea of reasonable suspicion comes in. This means the police have some kind of solid, believable information, maybe from a credible witness or some physical evidence that clearly points to a certain person. If they think that person is a flight risk or might hurt someone, they can make the arrest. And this one is a big deal too. An officer can make a warrantless arrest if they have a genuine reason to believe it's the only way to stop someone from, say, destroying evidence, like wiping a hard drive or ditching a weapon, or from scaring off witnesses who could testify against them. And then you've got a few other pretty clear-cut cases. For example, if someone is a known fugitive, if they're caught red-handed with something that's clearly stolen property, or if they're actively getting in the way of an officer doing their job or trying to escape. Yep, all of those are grounds for an immediate arrest. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about police power, but now let's totally flip the script and talk about your power. Because the second an arrest happens, a whole shield of rights and protections immediately springs into action for you, the individual. This quote here really says it all. A warrantless arrest isn't the end of the process. It's just the beginning of a very strict legal one. It is absolutely not a blank check for the police to do whatever they want. So what are these rights? Let's walk through the 5 big ones. First, the right to know why. The police have to tell you right away the reason you're being arrested. Then there's the super important 24-hour rule, which we'll come back to. You also have the right to call a lawyer, the right to let a friend or family member know what's happened, and the right to a medical exam. But let's circle back to that 24-hour rule, because honestly, it might just be the most powerful protection you have. The 24-hour rule. Yep, this is the big one. This is the ultimate backstop. It puts a ticking clock on how long the police can hold you. They have 24 hours, max, to get you in front of a judge to justify why they arrested you. If they can't do that, the detention itself becomes illegal. It's the system's #1 check on police power. So let's bring this all home. As we wrap this up, what's the key information you should really have in your back pocket after all this? Okay, so here's the bottom line. Can police arrest without a warrant? Yes, but it's reserved for serious, urgent situations where public safety is on the line. That power is not unlimited. And the most important thing to take away from this is that knowing your rights is your first and frankly your best line of defense. And always remember, if you feel those rights have been violated, the law has a process to challenge it. And that really leads us to one final thought, doesn't it? The law hands you this shield of rights, but having rights on paper is one thing. The real question is, how do you make sure that in the moment, your voice is actually heard and those rights are respected? Now that is something worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning in.